إن ربكم الله الذي خلق السماوات والأرض في 6 أيام ثم استوى على العرش
Gonna start now. Bismillah, alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen, wassalatu wassalam ala rasulillah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Assalamu alaikum, brothers and sisters. 1 second, Abdurraheem, can you let the people in, please? Yeah. Welcome back to another Insight to Islam Zoom discussion. This is the second in a series entitled "Aiming High and Being Ambitious Muslims." So the aim of these discussions is to actually find out how people are doing, how they're surviving, how they are doing business, the difficulties in doing business. We want to kind of generate a discussion about aiming high, being ambitious, making wealth, and what we're doing in order to achieve these goals. As I said in the last podcast with Musa, this isn't just about making money. It's obviously connected to the deen, and from the deen is having the upper hand, being those who give rather than those who take. So one of the fundamental things is that being able to survive, being able to earn an income and excel and be able to, to do well for yourself. There's nothing wrong in the deen with actually doing well for yourself. So we have two, mashallah, aspiring brothers. We have with us Abdurraheem AR Sense. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam.
And we have Aziz Taylor, CEO of Vamp. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam.
How you doing, brothers? Okay.
Alhamdulillah.
Okay, we want to get a bit of a background information. We'll start with Abdurrahman. Okay, now, alhamdulillah, we see you being busy, but obviously there was a beginning. There was first of all, how did you become Muslim? First of all, we'll start with that and your kind of progression to where you are now. So if you can just quickly, when did you become Muslim? And we start from there, inshallah.
Do you know what it is? To be honest, I can't even remember exactly what year I became Muslim. I became Muslim when I was about 17, going on 18.
Okay.
I grew up in Mitesall North, whoever knows it.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't say heavily gang orientated, but a lot of mandem in that area took their shahada.
Mm-hmm.
And they had good intentions. They had good intentions. Obviously they became Muslim,
Mm-hmm.
but they still had bad habits, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And they were keen on the deen. They wanted everyone to become Muslim, and share their joy.
Mm-hmm.
Now, for me personally, I thought it was a cult thing. If I'll be honest,
Yeah.
I thought it was a cult thing. They had a video that it was said that if you watch this video, then you take your shahada, sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Later down, I found out that video was The Purpose of Life by Khalid Yassin.
Yeah.
And that's a powerful video.
Yeah.
So I can see why that people was taking their shahada. But
Mm-hmm.
the way we got introduced to this video was like, it's a cult thing, rare.
Mm-hmm.
And to be honest, I stayed well away from it. I stayed well away from it. And it was only because one of my closest friends, I see him as a brother,
Mm-hmm.
he took his shahada. And when he took his shahada, it was like, it took me back. It was like, hold on, why is man taking his shahada? Let me go and see what my brother's getting himself into.
Mm-hmm.
So
was there any pressure to take shahada in them times?
Not for me personally.
Okay.
Not for me personally. I feel like them times there was a lot of people that was taking their shahada because it was sort of a defense for them.
Okay.
It was a way out of getting in trouble, with these certain man. You see where I'm coming from? But for me, it was never a pressure. Like I said, I've done my research upon Islam, coming from a Christian household and going to a Roman Catholic school. I was kind of like, things didn't make sense for me. Okay. I'm going Roman Catholic school. They're telling me it's 3 and 1. And I'm just like, if I got 3 fingers, it's not amounting to 1. So this stuff don't make sense. So when I done my research on Islam, alhamdulillah, Allah guided me to the straight path, you know, and I found out about Islamic monotheism. And that for me, it just hit home, like one God, only worshipping that one God. There's no partners, etc., etc. And from then, I just kept on doing my research, and I later down took my shahada.
Okay, so at this time, you're working now, you're at college now, or what's your view of life at this time?
Do you know what it is? I was 17 going on 18, so I had done the work thing. I dabbled in the road thing, but I come from a good household, so you know, nonetheless, even if I done road, I done it with principles, you know. So certain things I didn't get into and blah blah blah, but that's neither here nor there. But
I'm saying the good household, did that differentiate you from other people that you think, well, they didn't have a good household?
Yeah, no, 100%, 100%. That I think even when I speak about anything, I always speak and I always revert back to the good household, you know, because it's needed. It's needed. If you don't have that good household, if you don't have that, it's not gonna build that mindset that you're gonna need in order to go out in this big bad world and be integral. And that's what it is.
Yes. Yeah. I'm just gonna mention something because I listened to your Instagram. We spoke about private schools.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna come back to that because I kind of want to link that to that. Let me just go to Abdulaziz. Assalamu alaikum, Abdulaziz.
Alaikum salam.
So give us your brief journey to Islam and where you was at that time, that period in your life.
I became Muslim relatively young, well, extremely young, could say. I became Muslim like prepubescent, from 12 to 13.
Okay.
So no, 11 to 12 actually. 11 to 12 I became Muslim. I became Muslim due to growing up. I was always a reader. I like to read, and my thing was my mum used to buy me books on like comparative religion and history and stuff like that. But I come from so I was born in Jamaica. I came out when I was 6 years old. Yeah. And what it is at the time you'd find that Islam to the people of Jamaica, even the wider population, was something that they were fearful of, as the rest of the world was, in terms of it comes from a point of view where it is threatening to their Christian morals and background. Also, they're ignorant of something they know nothing of. So they're fearful of something they know nothing of. And that they, the 9/11, all that stuff, their terrorism and them things there. So they would then feed that to me. So I knew nothing of Islam other than that one, what my family, my parents, my mother would teach me. And that was that the Muslims cock up their bati 5 times every day to pray to the black box. So this is what I went into school one day saying. Honestly, you're
saying that the vibe you was getting from the get-go was negative. Like
it was negative, but you feel like this is. I grew up Seventh-day Adventist, so I grew up going to church on Saturday. All these things here. My mum was a very religious woman. I can't remember one time ever missing church, other than the snow fell too heavy. So, as I was saying to you, so then I went into school saying these things that my parents, obviously in a better manner. And I was completely wrong, and this sparked my interest. But on the whole, I was always an individual who your mother raises you to be religious. I would say God conscious to an extent, or understanding of she instilled that kind of principle in me. And I always wanted to, I was very, you could say, they used to make me memorize Bible gems. So Bible verses, they call it memory gems.
Okay.
And these things, so I would have a lot of Bible verses under my belt in terms of doctrine and so on. And they'd make me sit in the elder classes in terms of the Bible studies and the sort. And there was a lot of things that I couldn't fathom or understand. And that mainly revolved around, we claim the God of the Old Testament, the God of the New Testament are two different people, two different personalities, two different individuals. And the one of the old appealed to me more because he said, "Hear, O Israel, the Lord thy God is one." Then I'm coming to hear the New Testament. I'm hearing that this man is now three, or this being is now three, split into one. Same thing as Abdurraheem said earlier. So I had a few questions, some contention started. I had a few doubts in the Bible. At the time, Joshua Evans was starting to throw a lot more content out on YouTube, speaking about how reasons why Jesus wasn't God. And these things made sense to me at the time. So I called a rabbi and I wanted to ask him a few questions about some stuff.
Like you said, I'm gonna call a rabbi.
Yeah. On a Thursday.
12:13.
Yeah, on a Thursday I called him and he said, no, on a Friday after school, it was a summer. It was a Friday after school. I called him around 4 o'clock. I looked for his number in IT. And then I called him at around 4 o'clock actually, but I knew the sun was setting late because we kept the Sabbath also. So I said to him, all right, cool. And I know it's Sabbath soon, so you won't be able to answer the phone and so on. So could I come in beforehand? He said no. He said I could come in on Sunday, but there would be people there because obviously at the time I was underage, so I couldn't walk in there by myself and protection, all that stuff there. So there was people there on the Sunday, and then I went by myself. And then I asked him a few questions about mainly around like this term Son of God, and I said to him, okay, cool, this term Son of God, what does it mean, and so on, so on. So he gave me my answers. See, like how the Muslim says Abd, and so like in the language of the Hebrew and so on. So we understand it to mean this, not the Greek kind of philosophical understanding behind it. So then a few things after that, I started to feel like a compelling feeling to act as a Muslim but believe as a Christian, because you don't want to leave what you've known.
Okay.
You understand? So I start praying like a Muslim, but still praying to Jesus. These times I'm 11. I'm going to church.
You don't have no Muslim friend, no one.
No Muslim
giving you
friends or family.
dawah.
I come from a strictly Seventh-day Adventist LNG white believing household.
Okay, but you wasn't impressed with it then.
In terms of Seventh-day Adventism.
Yeah.
No, I questioned why I follow it. I follow it because there's a few things alongside of it. Her beliefs. This woman, Ellen G. White, one of the founders of the faith, her stance on Black people, African people of African origin, also her Masonic relations to her creed and her doctrine, stuff like that. So these are things where I would look into at the time. And I said to you, I was a vivid reader. They'd call you Quran and that. So then I went to. So long story short, I'm doing these things here. Then I said to myself, I'm going to be a theist now. Just to believe in God and have no religion.
Okay.
But my mom lift up the whole house and wara after me. Then me say I can't believe in this and I don't believe in that. So I kept myself quiet. So then one day I went on to. I've never really researched what the Quran has to say or what the Quran is or anything. I went on to YouTube and then I typed in Quran with a K-O-R, like the French way. And then it said Quranic message to Muslims or Quran's message to Muslims, to Christians, And it was Surah Maryam, recited by Muhammad Luhaydan, where it speaks about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala taking the sun and these things and those ayat. I just started crying, man. I was listening to it and I just started crying and I said to myself, I marched myself down to the masjid, and then Kufi, Abdul, Ashanti was in there. I think I went down the next day actually, and then some other brothers were in there and I just took my shahada then.
MashaAllah. What comes to mind is someone who's independent, strong-minded, and you had no fear what your parents were saying. Anything. It's like, this is you now. You're on your own mission.
Yeah.
Because you're going to come home the next day and you're going to face your parents.
I kept it secret for many years.
Many years?
So about 16, I kept it secret.
Okay.
Kept Islam secret. Ramadan came, I would hide. I would say I'm staying at my friend's house, or because I was as you said, I was very independent from a young age. As Miss Maxine could trust me, and that's my mom's name. So my mom could trust me.
Okay.
So,
but in general, you was a good boy. You seem like your parents grew you up well.
Said, I come from a good household also, of good people. Understand? Most definitely, we come from a household of good people.
So question to kind of both of you, just to break it up. You have something in common in that both of you come from good households, and now you're able to have a vision. You're able to stand up on 2 feet, and you're looking forward. So how much does this play a factor in, you think, in the inner city? There are people like despairing or only thinking that, okay, they can't go far, or they think, I'm only going to be a manual worker. How much does the family play in this role? Abdurraheem.
Do you know what it is? Yeah. Like I said, it's all about integrity for me personally. Yeah. And independence. You get your independence from me personally, I believe, from your upbringing. It's like what Aziz said. As a young person, even though I came from a strict household with rules and regulations, etc., my mum still allowed me to do things like, like go to parties, etc. But you had to be in by a certain time and listen to my rules and blah, blah, blah. But I will allow you to do your thing, And then saying that, I was always a person that I didn't want to stay within my bounds and confines. I wanted to go outside the area. I wanted to go meet new people. I wanted to do all these things. I wasn't just content being with everybody on the block or in the area and keeping to one person. I've never been that sort of person.
Was that ambition taught to you, or was that like your family members are business people, or any of the entrepreneurs, or?
Like my household, to be honest, my mum, she worked her best. She worked her best in order to put food on the table. So she done cleaning jobs. She used to play center, etc., etc. So I always knew that my mum was a strong woman. My father left. Obviously, my mother and my father wasn't together, but my father was always in my life. Until year 6. So year 6, my father, for me personally, when I was in year 6, all I knew is that my father was going to Jamaica. I didn't know the whys. I didn't know whatever. I just knew he was going to Jamaica, and this was the transition from me going from year 6 to year 7, so you always would want a male figure around. Now, my brother, he was on his own thing. I've got an older brother. He was on his own thing. And now my father's gone. We kept in contact for a while, and then that contact ceased. I've got 2 older sisters. They're twins. And they were education based. They were high in education. They went college.
University?
They went uni. They done all of that. Passed and all these things here. So in terms of role models, there was not a male role model.
Was that sorry? Was that conversation in your house about going to university and further education? Was that a conversation you heard, or you think that might be a route for me? Okay.
Do you know what it is? To be honest, like even though I was very smart, education was not my route. It wasn't my route. It was just something that I've done, and I can do it easily. It was easy for me. I never used to have to try it, but it was something that was very boring, and I just didn't want to do it. I would rather be not the class clown, but chill with the man and do all that stuff there.
Let me just ask, Abdul Aziz.
Hello.
Assalamu alaikum.
Salam, can you hear me?
Don't go sleep, brother, man. Stay awake, man.
No, I'm listening. I'm listening.
So listen, was university ever mentioned in your house? And did you go into further education, basically?
University was mentioned.
Because some people see success see success as education,
degree.
going to university to become a doctor, but
degree. No, I wouldn't even say to become anything. Success on a whole for many of us who come from the diaspora. and even from like just on the whole minorities to go to university is the end goal. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear. Yeah, but how did you see university further education?
So I had no problem with education.
When you was going for education,
I myself I actually see myself more as the academic, whilst I can be vocational also in terms of like I'm a man that does things in my hands. I'm a real life bushman if I'm honest with you, and I prefer to live that bush lifestyle. But I am on that that can you can still be synonymous with being an academic, you could say. Yeah. So I had no problem going to university. I actually got into King's College, so I did maths, physics, and computer science. So I got into King's College to study aeronautics. But can you hear me? So I got into King's College to study aeronautics, but I decided to go to Egypt instead.
Okay. Yeah. So you drop out of college and said, okay,
no,
I'm going to Egypt to study.
So what is I went to sixth form and studied maths, physics, and computer science, and I got into King's College University.
Okay.
King's College London University.
Okay, I get you now.
Yeah. So I was going to study aeronautics. So I said to myself, I'm going to go to Egypt instead, rather than stay here and go to university. I think a part of that was very naive and youthful of me. I'm a complete neophyte in life, you could say. Don't know anything about what is to come. Rather, I'm just living, going off of what I can see now, rather than the future. It's all part of growing up, like you would say. So at the time, I made the decision because I said to myself, I wanted to study more or less Arabic in the sort, more than, Dunyawiya, in other words. But that was a conversation that was definitely had between us.
Your parents think about that decision then? Conversation.
Can you hear me?
Ismail, you're breaking up.
Yeah. Did you have the conversation?
So I had the conversation with my mom. So obviously my mom has always wanted me to go to university. I'm not an only child. I have two brothers, but I'm the wash belly. I'm the last of them. My mom has always wanted me to go to university, especially why? Because I was the one who came to England, and I'd be the first from those who come from Jamaica to go to university. That was something that she wanted, but Miss Maxine has always trusted my judgment for some reason. She's always trusted my judgment in terms of what I'm doing and how I do it.
Who is? Sorry?
My mum, Miss Maxine, I call her. My mum.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah. But she's always trusted my judgment on many things. So especially where I wanted to go.
But your decision. Your decision to go to university, you say now it was naive.
No. I don't regret. No, I'm saying
to Egypt. Do you wish
in hindsight, say for example, at the time, things have worked itself out. What can we do? Do you understand? And I would have it, I'd have it no other way. I'm just saying at the time, I did that without no, like in terms of foresight of where I would go after, only to attain such knowledge and have tawakkul in Allah. You understand? So, so that's what I mean. I wouldn't call it naive I would call it naive in terms of in that position. Now looking back, things worked itself out. But if we were to look at somebody now and say to them, all right, cool, if you have no future, nobody supporting me in that sense to do so, and then you go over there and come back with nothing, you'd have to think, obviously give it some thought. So yeah, but it was a conversation that we definitely had. She most definitely wanted me to study and to get a degree and to get a good job. You know, the typical like 21st century path to success.
Okay. Question. The question to both of you then. This might be in regards to your children. Up to what level do you think your kids should study? That you have. Do you think the best route is for your kids? Is it to stay in education to the degree, degree or to A level, or you to kind of freestyle? So is it breaking up? Is it internet?
Yeah, so the internet's breaking up on your side.
Yeah.
Okay, 1 second. Is it clear? Has it come through? Assalamu alaikum. You can't hear at all.
No, we can hear you, but it's very jumpy.
I think you change your position.
Yeah. Okay. I can't do nothing but change position. That's it. Can you hear?
Yeah, no, we can hear.
Turn camera off. Okay. Question is now, in hindsight, now this is like if you're talking about for your children, in regards to how you see the world. Now you're a businessman, you can lay back and say everything is cool. But what would you advise for your children in regards to their progression through life? When should they go to university, or should they get a skill before they go into business? I'll go to Abdurraheem.
Wait, see, for me personally, I feel like education is the pillar. You see where I'm coming from? Like my way into business is because of how I grew up. You know, like how I grew up different to how I want my children to grow up. Yeah, like I said, I've dabbled on the road thing and all that stuff there. So my mindset is totally different to the mindset that I'm trying to instill in my children. So my children have seen, obviously, they've seen charity work that I've done. They've seen business. They see that from both me and their mother, you know. But one thing that, and especially from my wife, is that she cracks on about the education. Yeah. Because that's where she's come from. She's come from an educational standpoint. And I definitely believe that, you know, grinding is somewhat easy. I say this to my wife all the time. Grinding is somewhat easy. And I don't mean it's easy in the sense that, you know, like, because you got to put in a lot of hours.
About the hustle.
Yeah, like, you know,
hustling.
To do a business, etc., like to sell something, it's easy. You know, we see it everywhere we go. You know, like if you go Africa, you will see a man that's selling glasses, etc. Yeah. But to have education, this is a hard standpoint, you know? And previously when we were speaking and I was saying, Rod, the real person that you need to look up to is Abdul Aziz. The reason why I say it is because, mashallah, Allahumma barak, the brother is very studious, you know? He's educational based. And in terms of business, there's only so far a grind can really get you, the grind mindset, you know? Sooner or later, you're going to have to pick up books. Now, if you're a person that is naturally that way inclined, then you have the footing from the get-go, because you might not necessarily have to be that grinder, but you can find someone that grinds and put them in that position. Do you see where I'm coming from? Now, if you're a man that only knows the grind and the hustle, now you're kind of in loss, because now you have to find that person, if you're not going to be that person, to somewhat be that education and the brains. Do you see where I'm coming from? So for my children, I'm pushing them to be for the brains, you know, because when everything all fails, you got to be able to adapt. And the only people that are really other than the grind, yeah, that are making money is those who have good jobs.
So you think one of the best thing one of the greatest thing you can do for your children is give them that education, force them, but you're gonna do something to become a professional in some skill, in something. 100%. You can't drop out a skill and start hustling. You got to stick it all the way through.
100%, because for me, the education is the backbone. You know, that's the truth. Because listen, we're from England. We're currently in England. Yeah, we're in London, etc. Yeah, let's be real. there's no other educational system like ours. So if your child is educationally savvy and they go wherever they want to go, because a lot of us talk about migrating and leaving the country, wherever they go, if they've got education like that, they're the ones. Everyone want to look at it and say, yo, listen, we need you in the team. Do you see what? And it's all about being a key player in anything in life. If you're the key player, everybody wants you. Do you see where I'm coming from? And if you're not that, then you get left to the wayside and we pick whoever we want to pick. So we got to adapt and allow our children to pivot into them positions and know that, right, I'm a key player regardless. And I know how to grind and hustle. You see where I'm coming from?
Got you.
You got to be an all-rounder. You got to be all-rounder.
Yeah. Abdulaziz, what do you think then? If seeing as you chose to not go down the educational route, so the university, but you was confident enough that you could get through, you could establish something. And what would you also advise now you've gone for that system? What would you advise your children?
Obviously, I can only speak from a standpoint of my experiences because I'm yet to have children to nurture them in that way. But from it depends, because the world we live in isn't quite. I concur with everything Swift is saying, what Abdurraheem is saying. So, but what in this instance here, the world we live in is not clear and black and white. So you'll find many times that, as I said, I concur with him. To me, education is the standpoint and is the fundamental building blocks at which we should build our children on. That gives them a base to be, well, even if they don't have the degree certificate, they will be able to articulate themselves well. Maybe they'll be able to adjust, be able to learn, you understand, which are all transferable skills within any kind of realm or any kind of sector that they want to be hired in or even want to hire individuals in. So education, most definitely. There isn't really much I would say in terms of would I do things differently. Every child is different, and we're all we were all once children. I still class myself as one. We're all
a child.
Yeah, Maxine. Yeah, we would say we were. So all once children, we all have different personalities to what we've grown in today. Obviously, I would say to anybody now, if they themselves are what I would do is obviously build them on that foundation of being educated and make them understand that education is important.
To what level, though? To what level you think is enough for them?
Dependent on the child. Not everybody is cut out for business. Business is it takes a lot of a character, and not everybody is able to develop their character. And some many chase it and can never attain it. You understand? It's just not who they are. And some are sheep, and some call the sheep. Simple as. Some people need to work jobs, and others need to create them. This is how it works. And whatever you fall into, I think you'd be able to see it. Just to support them along that way is the main thing. But to instill those values of wanting to have your own business or work for self is key. Also, whilst education is there.
I mean, obviously the title aiming high and being ambitious may not necessarily mean that you got to be a millionaire, but you got to be someone who wants to achieve something. Maybe I want to memorize the whole Quran, or maybe a deen issue. But the point is, are we developing that mindset of we got to achieve something? It may not be university. It may be, okay, I'm going to open up Vamp and I'm going to open up many shops selling a business. But are we pushing, like the next generation of Muslims, what's the mindset that we're pushing onto our kids that, don't let the estate or the area
dictate your mindset and your future.
Dictate your mindset and your future. And that's where I think, people can't see further than their block. That's all they see.
Yeah, that's definitely one of the biggest sicknesses amongst us, especially the community. So we can only speak about our community and the wider London community, is that the mindset is what's detrimental to us at the moment. I think, as you said, unable to see past those barriers, unable to see past the influence around them, and to know that they're actually captured within that influence hemisphere, rather than to separate oneself and say, okay, cool, let me go, let me step out of this and achieve something different. But back to a point earlier that you said in terms of how did the family make us in terms of growing up in that area and so on. So like I can, from my experience, I've always been present amongst the individuals, but absent in mind around them. You understand? So we grew up in the area, you'd know everybody, everybody's cool. We grew up doing the same things, sleeping at each other's houses. You know, you have that bond with individuals you may see who have taken a different path to you now. But from when I was young, I could always say that I was present amongst them, but absent in mind. So we're not really on the same kind of, you know,
not on the same page.
No, not on the same page at all. And that's one thing where I said many of the youth now, or people my age as well, they can't see past it. In terms of how
old are you, if you don't mind me asking?
22.
Okay.
Yeah, 22. So many people, and that's who it affects the most, from about 16 to 24 currently. Maybe even older these days. But yeah, you find that where they're unable to do so, that's due to many things. Influence, music, European consumerism. All we want to do is buy. You understand? No one wants to build. In terms of, I don't really have an answer in how we can break the mindset. Maybe give me a few more years, I'll write a book.
No, I'm gonna come back. Abdurraheem, man, how can we break the mindset, man? We have to break the mindset.
Well, the mindset is, for me personally, I just feel like the mindset's it stems from the household. You know, that's what I believe in it. If we go back off the back of me and the brother here, Abdul Aziz, we've come from a household that we was allowed to roam, but we had foundations. You know, we got to understand that it's all about the foundations that we're trying to build. You know, there's and the reason why I say about the education, because it's a foundation. Exactly what like Abdul Aziz said. Yeah, you got to understand. You see, when you go to education, education is a building block that gives you the skills, the transferable skills to do anything in life. Now, if you can master that setting, because for me, education is not the only key. Yeah, there's many keys that can open up doors. Do you see where I'm coming from? But education is a standing point that we need to be able to master, in order to adapt in other ways. You know, for instance, I've come from South London. You know, I roll around people that we don't have no role models, you know, broken families, very poor, you know, road, etc. You know, if you hear everyone that jumps on, the majority of people talk about the road thing. Yeah. But at the end of the day, I don't want to speak about that. I don't want to speak about that. I want to speak about how we transferred our skills. Now, I believe that the education is somewhat the way to transfer those skills.
One thing, what you said earlier about the household for me, which was crucial, is that one thing that did play a major part, and it's not from myself. There was one time when I was younger, everybody was playing outside, summertime, and my mum called me inside and said I got to read and do times tables. But I can do times tables, but this woman wanted to keep me inside, and I said, why should I stay inside? I started getting upset. I said, why am I staying inside when everybody else is outside playing? And she said, you're not like everybody else. You're different. And
okay.
Well, the nefsi biyadi. That stays in me to this day. Every time I thought about doing something, and then said to myself, "Oh, human. Okay, maybe I should do it." I said, "No, I'm not like those individuals. I'm going to be different. Not because I'm special, because I'm different, and I chose to be different."
Okay, the point is, that confidence, that ability to jump out of university, go to Egypt, come back, set up your business, you have a self-confidence. where you will be in a circle, but that circle won't influence you. You want to influence the circle. How do you pass that? Because you're going to pass it on to your child, no doubt. What are some of the key points that you're going to say to your kid? Don't do this, do that, so that that self-confidence can be passed on. Because you're not going to teach your kid to be a sheep.
Amongst us, I think this is something that affects this community more. Us being from a more like the African diaspora, you could say, yeah. So us, and we've been affected differently historically to other like ethnic groups, and I would say, you have to break the mold. So for everything, the road to change starts with self-realization. So for us to realize that, firstly, we're sick in terms of us as a community, us as individuals, us as individual like grouped bodies in terms of the areas we come from and the sort. So as I said, the road to change starts with self-realization or self-awareness of where you stand.
Can I cut you? Can I cut you? Sorry. This self-awareness and this self-awareness that we must have. Do we see ourselves living in this country and doing what we're doing? This is an opportunity for us. Like sometimes I think that when we see people trying to cross the channel in boats, 100 people drowning every single day trying to get here, and we're here and we don't realize that we have opportunity that other people are dying in the sea for. Do you get what I'm saying? Is that to a certain degree, are we ungrateful for the opportunities that we have? Is that something that we should pass on to our children and our family members?
Most definitely. We're most definitely privileged. But at the end of the day, somebody else woke up somewhere else. One thing that reminds me all the time is that I have family members in Jamaica right now because I come from country who are not blessed with the same opportunities that I've had. Whether some days you don't eat or we all have our hard little rough patches of life. We're still not blessed with the opportunity in terms of what this land can offer us in terms of access to funds or access to individuals who can provide you with information or platforms or courses or grants or anything of that sort that are given to us on a silver plate. So most definitely, we're definitely ungrateful for what we have. We feel like we come from here and we're entitled to it. It may be different for you in terms of me. I wasn't entitled to it because I just got stayed 2015. That's when I got Red Book.
Okay.
So I was told differently. I looked at it different. When everybody else was going to Spain, I had to stay. You understand? And everybody else was getting certain benefits and stuff. I couldn't have access to those things. So
but that situation, do you think that made you make it work then?
Most definitely. I grew up seeing my mom not having nothing. I must have something now.
Okay.
How can my mother want things and I have nothing? That don't make sense to me. That was my main.
100%.
That was the main thing for me.
So do you also think that, as I said, someone grows up with the Red Book from birth, feels he's entitled, and he'll just relax and just go and get his JSA and just chill?
Loads of people do that. I give an example. So it comes down to an extent where a lot of people won't commit crime. Like they may be in a place of sufferation, but they value that. They value the place that they're in right now so much that they would rather go hungry than risk it. Because if you don't have it, and you go prison, you do something, then end up in prison, boy, you're not even gonna have you don't even have the choice to think about going to do it again. You understand? So right back in Jamaica, I should go sit down, brother.
Okay, let me just go to Abdul Aziz. Abdul Aziz wants his hands up. Assalamu alaikum, Abdul Aziz.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
But the line is a bit rough, you know. Alhamdulillah, mashallah. Assalamu alaikum, Ismail Fraser. Join the conversation. Assalamu alaikum.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, go ahead.
Is that Abdul Aziz or Ismail? Is that myself?
It's for Abdul Aziz. He's had his hand up.
Yeah, I just would say Jazakumullah khairan, brothers, for managing to tune in to hear some of the the discussion taking place. And I just wanted to add something that was mentioned before, but maybe forgotten about, in terms of the helping the next generation to develop, and that is to lead by example. There's a lot of information out there. Some people are studying it, some people are implementing it, but one of the things that you might find is missing, and this is something I've observed over the last maybe almost 20 years now, that there's just not enough sharing of that knowledge, of that, want to put it in brackets, a success model where people are doing well in certain things. There's a very much,
secrecy.
I know how to do something and it's working for me, so I'm going to keep it for myself. So the shortcut to break that is to, whatever resources that we have, is to share them and see how we can optimize and synergize and do things together. And this is what Allah tells us, to cooperate upon, righteousness and taqwa. So on every different level, not just business and education, but the deen, everything as a community, to cooperate on all these things, and not to necessarily pick and choose, not to pick and choose, but to actually do it. And that's all of us, not the people that are under 30 or the people that are under 40, right across the board, because at the end of the day, everybody's got something to contribute. It can be knowledge, it can be wisdom, education, finance, and until all of those cogs, so to speak, are, because someone is trying to build, but if he cooperated with those who had experience, he build it maybe 10, 20 times faster. And the person who's got experience maybe doesn't have the energy or the resources, so he's left, maybe left a bit stuck. You understand what I'm saying? So it's the overall cooperation and kind of seeing how we can make it kind of gel together so everybody wins. There's a win-win. Right now, a lot of people play the win-lose, I win, you lose, or no deal. And in reality, if somebody's winning, if we're all like a team, if we're all a community, then win-lose can't work. Everybody has to win. But for someone to gain and someone to lose, in reality, everybody's not really moving forward. Only certain aspects of the team is moving forward. So you play football and you got all of the strikers are moving forward, but nobody bothered to train up the defenders, then the whole team's going to lose.
But
so it's like,
so Aziz, to cut you, the thing of the win-lose, like for example,
this is dialogue and discussion. Everybody can chime in. It's not. There's no cutting, bro. It's fine.
So what I was gonna say to you now is, obviously not everyone is cut out to be a businessman to be a millionaire, for example. But obviously so there's going to be some losers, for example. But as you know, the hadith about if your companion is a musk seller, if he doesn't give you some oil, at least you're gonna come away with a nice smell. So if business is not your thing, then maybe if you are in a community that is proactive, ambitious, then maybe business is not for you, then education is for you. But at least the vibe you're getting off from the brother next to you is something positive, and you're pushing forward. So I'm just gonna go back to Abdul Aziz with this thing again. That he's 22, he's a young man, mashallah, and should we not get into the habit of, when we see something good, praising it and say, mashallah, the brother's doing good. You get what I'm saying? So the point is that at 22, Abdul Aziz, just to I'm gonna put pressure on you now. Like, do you advise people? Do you think you're in a position to advise people, even though you're young? You're a businessman.
Okay, now I know you're not talking to me.
No. I'm just gonna skip to Abdul Aziz quickly. If you want to create this environment of being ambitious and achieving, then those who may see have achieved something need to be spoken about, not backbiting, need to be praised, and that also needs to rub off on other people. Do you get what I'm saying? So my question to Abdulaziz is, do you see yourself as someone who could give advice to someone, or who would give advice, or do you still see yourself as someone, oh, I'm only 22, I'm just starting, I'll keep my business to myself, as we naturally kind of always do?
In moderation, I would say. Definitely in moderation. In terms of, if somebody does come to me with the desire to do so, in terms of setting up a business, who am I to turn them away from offering whatever experiences I've had? They're not expertise, they're only experiences. I can offer some form of guidance in terms of, from the person who knows nothing, from someone who may know a little bit more than them. Then from that standpoint, yes. To say to myself that I offer full-blown advice on how to run someone's life, to give, no, never. And it's not coming from, like, even to say that you're saying it's an expert standpoint, but no, I can't. And a part of it also is that I'm very aware of my age to a lot of individuals. So when some people do come to me and ask me for certain that information, I'm still greeted with resistance, because they don't want to take information from me. And I've learned that. I don't know if it's due to age or if it's how I put things across, but many a times I find that it is age. So I'm very cautious and careful. I don't shy away from ever, like, helping people if I can. I don't think I'm anybody to help, but the information that I do have, I don't ever hide. I do share. I mainly refer to books anyway. If I do.
Not to your own experience.
Yeah, straight. I always say, I got this information from this book, and that information from that book, and turn to this one. There's something that me and Abdulaziz used to go back and forth doing.
Abdulaziz, sorry. Assalamu alaikum, Abdulaziz.
Salam.
Yeah, come back. I just wanted to bring that point. How do you think we can create this feeling or this aura of being progressive, being upbeat, ambitious, and striving?
To be honest, I think it's already there, and it just needs a bit more development. That's all. I don't think it doesn't exist. Clearly, something is happening, because they say nothing has happened in the community over the last 20, 30, 40 years, wouldn't be correct. So something is happening, but what it means maybe just needs to be a little bit of a tweak here and a tweak there, a little bit more involvement, in different areas. So I mean, those things would have to be kind of more so identified. Because if we said that nothing was being developed, then how is it that brothers are now, for example, opening up shops and running businesses now? Where did they get it from? So did they get it from outside of the community? Possibly, if they couldn't find enough from within. But to say it doesn't exist at all, no. It's there. It just probably needs to be a bit more,
nurtured.
Maybe be a little bit more nurtured. And I think going back to that, to the sunnah of having that sort of like selflessness, not just saying, look, we want to just give because there's a greater and more noble objective that we want to arrive at, would really help. Because at the end of the day, we're only here for a short time. So whatever comforts and things that we may enjoy of the dunya is really just for us to help us so we can get on with the stuff we need to do for the hereafter. It's just the means, isn't it? It's just the platform. And having that type of abundance mentality means that it doesn't matter if I share how to do this or how to do that. We can all work together and get our risk. It doesn't mean there won't be problems and challenges and issues, but I think that mindset and that thing there that sometimes people are looking for is actually there, but it just hasn't been, how can you say, uncovered or exposed or made apparent directly from the deen itself.
Yeah, excellent. I'm going to come back to you. 1 second. Abdurraheem, we kind of left the issue of I want to find out how did you get into your business? How did you start your business, and why did you start your business?
Do you know what it is? At the time when I started my business, I had a business partner who I feel like a lot of people know. It's my right hand man, you know, Abdul Shahid. To be honest, the business weren't for me, you know. It was really for him. If I keep it real, you get me. Like, obviously, the brother Talib Tyson, everyone should know. He used to set up outside Iceland, and he was doing his thing. But what it was that the council was always onto him. They were onto him. They seized his stuff many times. He had courts and all them things there, and he was tired. He was like, you know what, I'm done with it. You know, I've made my money from the oils, and to be honest, I'm going Jordan. You know, I'm done. So what it was is that he had approached Abdul Shahid, and he was like, yo, listen, why don't you take over, sort of thing? Like, why don't you just buy some oils from me? And, you know, basically when I leave, you fill the gap. And Abdul Shahid was like, you know, Abdurraheem, come listen to what Talib's got to say, basically. And to be honest, I was like, bro, do you know what? Listen, I'm from the roads, you know, like, you coming to tell me about oils and that.
What was you doing at the time? What was you doing at that time?
I was Muslim at the time, so I weren't doing anything. But you get me, like. But it's the mentality of where I came from. You know, having a certain lifestyle, and then coming to Islam. You know, to tell me about oils and blah blah blah. If it ain't making money, I'm not involved. Do you see where I'm coming from? I'm not gonna put up a grind that doesn't make money. That's just not me. Do you see where I'm coming from? So it was like, started listening to him, sort of thing. And then he showed certain things of what he got from doing the oils, etc. Now, like I said, I'm that way inclined. I'm that way. I'm money orientated. Yeah. So when I saw what was the benefits of selling the oils, I was like, all right, cool, let's jump in. Me and Abdul Shahid, we put in £100 each. So what you see from my business right now is two people putting £100 each. So it started from £200. You know, everything that you see now all stemmed from £200. You know, so we put in the £200, we bought our oils, and just got to work, basically. Got to work. I used my same skills that I had from that walk of life, and just kept on building the business. So, you know, just kept on putting back in, etc., until it became to a point where we was able to split, but still have the same name. So it was two different entities under the same name. You get me? So it was still Scentsible Choice, but from the inside, we knew that he was making his money and I was making my money. And the route going forward was that when we get to that point, when we got a big move to make, we put our money back in as a collective and we execute the plan. You know, didn't know what the plan was going to be, but that was the thought process.
Okay.